Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive with us.
Yeah, excited to be here.
This time we're heading to Harrow's Cove, a seemingly peaceful coastal town where a shocking murder, rocked the community in the summer of 21.
Yeah,
We've got investigative reports, court transcripts.
the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards, yeah, to unpack here. So if you are ready for a true crime deep dive,
Let's go.
let's get into it.
Yeah. What immediately struck me, looking at all this material was just this underlying tension in Harrow's Cove even before the murder happened.
Yeah.
The sources paint this picture of a community that was already kind of divided, with locals who were fiercely protective of their traditions
Yeah.
and these newcomers who were eager to usher in change. It's almost like a powder keg waiting for a spark.
Okay, so let's talk about the spark.
Yeah.
Elias Mayfield, the marine biologist, found dead on the beach.
Right.
He was dedicated to saving the declining fish population, but he was also harboring secrets about his research.
Mm-hmm.
Secrets that someone clearly wanted buried.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting. I mean, those secrets put Elias at odds with some pretty powerful figures in Harrow's Cove, right? Each with their own
Yeah.
compelling motives. So we have Mason Reed, a gruff fisherman whose livelihood was being threatened by Elias's conservation efforts.
Right.
Then there's Tiffany Fontana, the wealthy developer with grand plans to transform Harrow's Cove into this bustling tourist destination.
Right.
Plans that directly clashed with Elias's environmental concerns.
Of course, yeah.
And then you have this wild card.
Yeah.
Elias's own estranged sister, Lana,
Right.
harboring years of resentment and a really shrouded past.
Yeah, so it sounds like Elias had a target on his back.
Yeah.
But let's go back to that fateful July morning when his body was discovered.
Right. Yeah.
A group of teenagers on their way to the beach stumbled upon this horrific scene.
Can you imagine?
Imagine the shock that just rippled through this town.
Absolutely. I mean, the sources describe this immediate impact on Harrow's Cove, shock waves of grief and suspicion, just fractured relationships.
Yeah.
It really fueled this kind of paranoia. It wasn't just a murder, right?
Right.
It was a betrayal of the town's sense of security and innocence.
And the initial autopsy findings only heightened the tension. I mean, Brent force trauma to the head, instantly ruling out, accidental drowning. This was a deliberate, violent act.
Precisely. Yeah, so it transformed the investigation from a potential, missing person case into a full-blown homicide.
Right.
And that's where Sheriff Peter Thorne kind of steps in, right?
Right.
Tasked with unraveling this tangled web of secrets and lies.
But Sheriff Thorne wasn't alone in his pursuit of the truth, right?
Right.
Enter Charlie Winters,
Well, for her.
a journalist who recently returned to Harrow's Cove after, years away.
Right.
She started digging into the case for, the local newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
But she quickly becomes much more than just a reporter.
Exactly. What fascinated me about Charlie reading through all of this was her drive to uncover the truth, even if it meant putting herself in danger.
Right.
The source material highlights her just relentless pursuit of every lead, every inconsistency, every hidden motive. She's conducting her own
Wow.
parallel investigation, interviewing suspects, piecing together clues, driven by this sense of justice, and also a desire to honor Elias's legacy, I think.
Yeah. Let's dive into those suspects, starting with Mason Reed. He had a fiery temper,
Oh, yeah.
and witnesses placed him at the beach that night.
On the surface, he seems like the most likely culprit, right?
Easy to jump to that conclusion, right?
Right.
Especially given, the reports of his volatile outbursts.
Yeah.
The sources detail a particularly heated town hall meeting where Mason, publicly threatened Elias,
Oh, wow.
accusing him of trying to destroy his livelihood.
So it sounds like Mason had the motive and a possible opportunity.
Yeah. But was it all just bluster fueled by alcohol and frustration, or was this a chilling foreshadowing of his intent?
Right. That's the question that kind of haunted the investigation, right?
Well-
While Mason's anger was undeniable, proving premeditation was a challenge,
Yeah.
Remember, Harrow's Cove is a small town.
Right.
Rumors run rampant.
Of course.
Grudges fester. So was Mason truly capable of murder, or was he simply a convenient scapegoat for a more, cunning killer?
Right. Then there's Tiffany Fontana, the ambitious developer who clashed with Elias over her plans to transform Harrow's Cove. Their arguments were legendary, escalating as Elias gathered evidence against her marina project.
Yeah, and then there's that chilling text message Tiffany sent Elias just hours before his death. Quote, "You need to back off or consequences will follow," end quote.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a smoking gun.
Wow.
But was it truly a threat or just, a businesswoman fiercely protecting her interests?
It definitely adds fuel to the fire, but it's not concrete proof.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's Elias's estranged sister, Lana.
Right.
Their relationship was fractured, marked by, unspoken resentment and this buried family tragedy that cast a long shadow over their lives.
Lana's a really intriguing character. The source material paints her as deeply troubled, grappling with guilt and grief over past actions. She's an artist known for these intense emotional paintings. And, after Elias is dead, they take on this haunting new significance.
Oh, wow.
Some saw them as an outpouring of remorse, while others interpreted them as like a confession of guilt.
Right.
It's fascinating.
Okay, so we've got a volatile fisherman, an ambitious developer with a chilling message, and a troubled sister with a dark past.
Yeah.
Each of them had a motive, but the initial interviews conducted by Sheriff Thorne were just full of contradictions and half-truths.
Yeah, exactly. Mason insisted on his innocence, claiming to have been home, drinking with a friend, but his friend's memory was, shall we say, conveniently hazy.
Right.
Tiffany maintained she was at a fundraiser, but there were gaps in her alibi, too. And Lana's story about a late-night walk on the beach. Well, it raised more questions than it answered.
So everyone had secrets, and no one seemed willing to reveal the whole truth.
Classic.
Like a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces and, distorted images.
Precisely. And that's where Charlie's relentless pursuit of the truth becomes crucial, right?
Right.
As she digs deeper, she starts to uncover hidden connections, illicit dealings, and a web of lies that extends far beyond Elias's death.
Wow.
It becomes clear that this case is about more than just a murder. It's about the soul of Harrow's Cove itself.
All right, listeners, we've set the stage. A town on edge, a web of suspects, and a journalist determined to uncover the truth.
The plot thickens.
But the investigation is just getting started. Trust me, the twists and turns are only going to get more intense.
Oh, yeah. Buckle up.
We'll be back with part 2 of our deep dive into Echoes of Lament, where we'll unpack the forensic evidence, analyze the suspects' alibis, and uncover some shocking new revelations. So stay tuned, because this is one mystery you won't want to miss.
Nope. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Echoes of Lament. When we left off, the murder of Elias Mayfield had plunged Harrow's Cove into this whirlwind of suspicion, with Mason Reed, Tiffany Fontana, and Lana Mayfield each harboring secrets and potential motives. But as the investigation progresses, a closer look at the forensic evidence adds another layer of complexity to the case.
Right. The forensic evidence really starts to shake things up. Let's start with the fishing line found on Elias's clothing.
Yeah.
A seemingly insignificant detail that turns out to be a major lead.
Yeah, this seemingly minor detail, right, turns out to be a pretty significant lead. Analysis revealed that the fishing line was a very specific type, like a heavy-duty line used for deep-sea fishing, not the kind typically used by recreational anglers.
Okay, so not your average fishing line.
Yeah.
Where does this lead investigators?
Well, it leads them straight to Mason Reed.
Right.
Remember, he was a seasoned fisherman known for using that exact type of fishing line, so it's a pretty direct link, between Mason and Elias. And to the illegal fishing practices Elias was so determined to expose.
So does this mean Mason is our guy? I mean, it seems like a pretty solid connection.
It does make him a prime suspect, for sure. But remember, we're talking about a skilled fisherman, right?
Right.
Could someone have planted that evidence to frame him?
Yeah.
We also can't ignore the other forensic evidence, like the footprints found near Elias's body.
Oh, right.
2 sets. One a size 10 men's shoe and the other a size 7 women's shoe.
Hold on a second. 2 sets of footprints.
Yeah.
That changes things. Does this mean we can potentially rule out Mason since he wouldn't be wearing a size 7 women's shoe?
That's a very good point. The DNA analysis of the women's footprint didn't actually lead to any definitive matches. It's like this ghost at the crime scene,
Wow.
This tantalizing clue that really deepens the mystery. It certainly doesn't exonerate Mason.
Right.
But it suggests that someone else was present, potentially involved in the crime.
This is getting more complicated by the minute. What about Elias's phone records?
Yeah.
Did those shed any light on his final hours?
Absolutely. The phone records provide some really crucial insights. There were those heated text exchanges with Tiffany, right?
Yeah.
Suggesting a final confrontation about her marina project. And then there's that cryptic message from an unknown number. Quote, "Meet me tonight. I have something you need to see."
Wait, what? A mysterious message from an unknown number. That definitely sounds suspicious. Did investigators ever figure out who sent that message?
That's the question that really plagued the investigation.
Yeah.
The source material suggests that Elias was onto something big,
Right.
a secret that someone was desperate to keep hidden. Was this message a trap? A desperate plea for help? Or something else entirely? It's a chilling reminder that Elias knew he was in danger,
Yeah.
but the identity of the sender and the nature of that secret remained elusive.
Okay, so we have Mason linked to the scene by the fishing line, Tiffany sending those threatening messages, and Lana with her troubled past and a shaky alibi. But the footprint evidence suggests there might be someone else involved. And then we have this mysterious message from an unknown number. It seems like everyone has something to hide.
You're absolutely right. Everyone in Harrow's Cove seems to be entangled in this web of secrets and lies. And it's this intricate web that Charlie Winters finds herself navigating as she continues her own investigation.
It's incredible how Charlie's conducting this parallel investigation alongside Sheriff Thorne. What was it that drove her so relentlessly?
Well, the sources portray Charlie as someone who is deeply affected by Elias's death. She saw him as a symbol of hope for Harrow's Cove,
Yeah.
someone who genuinely cared about the community and the environment. And his murder really shattered her faith in the town, and she became obsessed with finding the truth, not just for Elias, but for the soul of Harrow's Cove itself.
Yeah. It sounds like a classic case of a journalist, following their gut instinct, unwilling to let go of a story until they've uncovered every last detail.
Mm-hmm.
But with so many suspects and conflicting pieces of evidence, how did she even begin to narrow down the possibilities?
One way she did this was by really meticulously scrutinizing the alibis of each suspect. Remember, Mason claimed he was home drinking with a friend, but his friend's memory was suspiciously hazy.
Right.
Tiffany insisted she was at a fundraiser, but there were gaps in her alibi, too. And Lana's story about a late-night walk on the beach just didn't add up.
So everyone's story had holes in it.
Mm.
How did Charlie go about exposing those inconsistencies?
She did it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Through tireless interviews, painstaking research, and a keen eye for detail. For instance, she managed to track down several attendees from the fundraiser Tiffany claimed to have attended. While some vaguely remembered seeing Tiffany there, others had no recollection of her being present at all.
Okay, so Tiffany's alibi was starting to crumble. What about Mason and Lana? How did she approach their alibis?
In Mason's case, she focused on his friend, Bob, the one who supposedly corroborated his alibi. She discovered that Bob had this history of alcohol abuse and blackouts.
Oh, wow.
And under Charlie's, relentless questioning, Bob admitted that his memory of that night was pretty fragmented, riddled with gaps and uncertainties. He couldn't definitively say whether Mason was with him the entire time.
So Mason's alibi was starting to look less and less reliable. What about Lana? Did Charlie uncover any inconsistencies in her story?
Well, Charlie noticed that Lana's account of her late-night walk lacked any specific details.
Yeah.
No landmarks, no encounters, no distinctive sounds or smells. It felt rehearsed,
Right.
as if she were reciting a story rather than recounting a genuine experience.
So what did Charlie do with this information? I'm guessing she didn't just sit on it.
No, she didn't. She went straight back to Sheriff Thorne with her findings, urging him to take a closer look at those inconsistencies in the alibis. She argued that while none of the suspects had airtight alibis, the mounting evidence against Tiffany Fontana made her the most likely culprit.
It's fascinating how Charlie is driving this investigation forward, pushing Sheriff Thorne to consider new angles and re-examine the evidence. But with all this focus on the suspects' alibis, did investigators ever make any progress on that mysterious message from an unknown number?
They did, and what they uncover really throws the entire case into a new light. But we'll have to explore that twist and the shocking revelations that follow in the final part of our deep dive into Echoes of Lament.
Okay, so we're back with the final part of our deep dive into the Echoes of Lament, and let me tell you, the twists and turns just keep coming. Last time, we left off with Charlie Winters digging into those suspects' alibis, uncovering inconsistencies, and pushing Sheriff Thorne to re-examine the evidence. But there's still that looming question. Who sent that cryptic message to Elias?
Right, yeah. That message was a crucial piece of the puzzle, and investigators finally caught a break. Remember how Elias was last seen alive at that local bar? Well, it turns out that bar had a security camera.
Oh.
One that had actually captured a crucial interaction between Elias and Tiffany Fontana.
Okay, so they finally got Tiffany on camera. What did the footage show? Was she threatening Elias?
The footage showed them in a heated argument, just as witnesses had described.
Yeah.
But here's the twist.
Yeah.
They weren't alone.
No.
A third person enters the frame, someone who had, up until this point, remained completely off the radar, Henry Kellerman.
Wait a minute. Henry Kellerman, the sustainable fishing entrepreneur who Elias had rejected. I thought he was just a background character in this whole saga. What was he doing at the bar with Elias and Tiffany?
That's what investigators want to know, right? The footage shows Henry approaching Tiffany and Elias, whispering something to Tiffany, and then slipping a small package into Elias's jacket pocket.
Hold on. Rewind that for a second. He put something in Elias's pocket. What was it? Drugs? A weapon?
Well, the footage didn't offer a clear view of the package's contents. It was small, wrapped in brown paper, but it was enough to make Henry, a person of interest. Remember, he had a motive, the rejected business proposition, and now he had a potential link to Elias just hours before his death.
So they bring Henry in for questioning, right? What's his story?
Henry, ever the smooth talker, claims he was simply returning some research papers that Elias had left at his office earlier that day.
Okay.
He insists the package was harmless, nothing incriminating.
Yeah.
But Charlie, with her, sharp instincts, wasn't buying it. She felt like Henry was hiding something, and she was determined to expose the truth.
Yeah, I love how Charlie just keeps digging, even when the official investigation seems to hit a dead end. What did she uncover about Henry?
Well, remember that mysterious message on Elias's phone, the one urging him to meet someone that night? Charlie discovers that the number belonged to a burner phone, purchased by none other than Henry Kellerman.
Wow, so Henry was the one who lured Elias out that night. But why? What was his end game?
Well, Charlie's investigation into Henry's business dealings reveals this trail of shady investments and offshore accounts. It turns out Henry wasn't just interested in sustainable fishing.
Oh, no.
He was running a sophisticated smuggling operation, trafficking endangered species and illegally harvested seafood.
And Elias, with his passion for protecting marine life, was about to blow the whole thing wide open. He was a threat to Henry's entire operation.
Exactly. Elias had stumbled upon evidence of Henry's smuggling ring, and he was determined to expose it no matter the cost.
Wow.
That package Henry slipped into Elias's pocket. It wasn't research papers.
Oh, boy.
It contained a tracking device.
So Henry used the tracking device to follow Elias to the beach that night.
Well, the sources don't provide a blow-by-blow account of what happened next.
Yeah.
But it seems clear that Henry confronted Elias, a struggle ensued, and Elias ended up dead.
Yeah. Henry, with his knowledge of the tides, made it look like an accidental drowning, hoping to cover his tracks. This is insane. It's like something out of a movie. But what about Mason? All the evidence seemed to point to him, the fishing line, the threats, the motive. Was he involved at all?
That's the thing about this case. It's full of twists and turns. Remember those footprints at the crime scene, the size 10 men's shoe?
Right.
They weren't Mason's. They belonged to Henry. He deliberately planted them there to frame Mason, knowing their, long-standing feud would make him the perfect scapegoat.
So Mason was innocent of murder, but was caught up in Henry's smuggling ring. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. What happened to Mason and Henry in the end?
Well, faced with overwhelming evidence, the security camera footage, the burner phone records, and Charlie's relentless pursuit of the truth, Henry confessed to the murder of Elias Mayfield. He was arrested and charged, his, illegal empire crumbling around him.
Oh.
As for Mason, while he was found guilty on charges related to the smuggling operation, his sentence reflected the fact that he was ultimately a pawn in Henry's, deadly game.
So justice was served, but at a tremendous cost. Elias Mayfield, a man who dedicated his life to protecting the ocean, lost his life because of it. And what about Lana? What was her role in all of this?
Lana, despite her, troubled past and those initial lies, was ultimately cleared of any involvement in the murder. The sources suggest that she was genuinely trying to protect Elias's reputation, not cover up her own crime. Her presence on the beach that night and her subsequent attempts to mislead investigators were driven by this, misplaced sense of loyalty to her brother.
It's a bittersweet ending to a deeply complex case. The truth was uncovered, but it came at a high price. Elias is gone, and Harrow's Cove will never be the same.
It is bittersweet, and it raises some important questions about, the hidden costs of environmental protection. Elias's story is a reminder that those who stand up for our planet often face powerful forces willing to go to great lengths to silence them.
Yeah.
It's a sobering thought, but also, I think, a call to action. We can't let Elias's death be in vain. We have to continue his fight for a healthier, more sustainable future.
I think that's a powerful message to end on. This deep dive into Echoes of Lament wasn't just about unraveling a murder mystery. It was about confronting the dark side of human ambition, the length people will go to protect their interests, and the courage it takes to stand up for what's right, even in the face of danger. So until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.